Hello everyone, welcome to Scorcher Toys at Anymoon.com's classic toy review of the Matchbox Officer's Battlepod. This toy was originally released in 1985 as part of Matchbox's Robotech 1/18 scale line of toys. It was later reissued as part of the Exo Squad Robotech crossover line of toys. Matchbox's 1/18 scale line of toys were meant to compete with G.I. Joe, a popular show at the time and popular merchandise. As such, it has an opening canopy, a translucent canopy that is opening. You can see there's not much going on as far as what's inside, but you could fit a figure in there. None of this is really accurate to the show, where this would not be a translucent canopy. There would be a armored canopy with a pilot within, and the pilot within would not be a normal human-sized pilot like it would be for this toy. It would be a much larger Zentradi pilot. So there's a couple scale issues, but clearly Matchbox didn't really care about that. They were going for that 1/18 scale G.I. Joe competition. Obviously, Matchbox wasn't a real stickler for scale, but if you do the math, the Officer's Battlepod actually does scale pretty nicely with the regular Battlepod they had released. It's almost 1/60 scale, which might get you thinking that you could show it off with today's 1/60 scale toys. Here's a picture. You could see that with the Arcadia VF1, it does show its age. So I would say it's relegated to sort of a vintage toy shelf you might have in your collection. You could also see there is the Bandai High Metal R, Glaug, Officer's Battlepod for the Robotech fans. It is vastly superior, although it doesn't accommodate little pilot figures like this old Matchbox toy did. The Matchbox toys certainly weren't known for nailing the line art, but I will say, all things considered, this Officer's Battlepod didn't do a terrible job. It certainly doesn't compete again with the Bandai High Metal R that we see today, but for the time it was definitely one of the better interpretations in the Matchbox line. Okay, let's talk about articulation. There is a gun on top of the head. It swivels back and forth, it aims up, it aims down, so all good things there. There is, on the back, a twist point. Lets you get the top of the craft left or right. Nice to see. There is a rotation at the shoulder and also the ability to pull away at the shoulder. And then a ball joint for the gun, which allows you to twist it and angle it just a little bit. So those are all good. There's no elbow. Obviously the arm articulation is fairly limited, which is too bad. You do have the little whisker guns, which are ball joints, which is nice to see. Then you have the hip, which goes all the way forward, all the way back. You could say, look, it's flying. Up to you. There's no ability to pivot the legs outward, as you very rarely see on anything from the 80s, so no surprise there. There's sort of a spring-loaded mechanism to the knee, not sure why. And then there is a an ankle joint. Now you can see I've got some red paint. Some paint issues on the legs. Those are pretty common. But as far as durability goes, that and maybe those spring-loaded knee joints are really the greatest concerns. Now you can see my toy isn't really stickered up and it looks pretty plain. With some decals, you would certainly spruce this thing up quite a bit. It's never going to be line art accurate. The proportions are always going to be a little bit off. But again, as far as 80s toys, I thought the Officer's Battlepod was among the best that Matchbox produced independently. We didn't just bring over from Takatoku. I still have a soft spot in my heart for it. Obviously, again, it doesn't really compete with today's Bandai High Metal R, but if you do have a vintage selection, if you got a chunky monkey on your shelf somewhere, certainly having it square off against an Officer's Battlepod seems like a good idea to me. Thanks for watching. Check out Anymoon.com for the full article.